one of my greatest creative passions is music. I have no musical talent. I don't sing. I was not in the rhythm line when they were passing out rhythm and dance abilities in heaven. I don't do any of that, but I do not miss a concert. And my inspiration for participating in this 352 grant opportunity was I wanted to bring attention to the music in the Black community. And so we came up with the idea of When the Music Was Cheap and Damn Near Free, a celebration of Black music in Gainesville, Florida, as told by Black people. There are quite a few documentaries and books written about Gainesville's music scene, and they do offer some perspective, but I wanted this to be totally from a Black perspective.
The whole story used to be back in the day that everyone are related to the Youngs, the Brockingtons, or the Warrens.
Oh, yes.
Because we had the largest families in that area. So one of my pastors used to say that all the time, you know, if you're from anywhere close to Gainesville, those are the three families that you are related to. And back in the day, everything was done community and family-wise.
Yes, ma'am.
Before Mr. Frank and Young, they owned Mom's Kitchen. He worked at Humpty Dumpty. That was his eating place right there on 13th Street. And back in the day, stuff like the tip of the chicken wing, the gizzards, the liver, and the necks, they didn't sell that. So on the weekend, he was allowed to fry all that up. And they would bring it into the neighborhood. My brothers and his son would go over there and get it, and the cupcakes. And hey, when they came, everybody came out of their houses with their tin plates and their hot sauce. And everybody sat and ate, you know, and that's how it was. You know, back then, if one family had it, everybody had.
My grandfather had 7 children, six girls. And the house that was there, a little bit of the history is before downtown Gainesville proceeded this far, from 8th Avenue this way on 3rd, Main Street, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Street. Were Black neighborhoods. And so the neighborhoods, and of course you're talking about Jim Crow era and segregation, and so the Black neighborhood was here and it was stationary, and the white neighborhood was moving like this from University.
Okay.
And so the house there, even when I was growing up, there was kind of a dividing line. I mean, there's no fence or railroads or anything, but you know, this part of 3rd, 2nd, and 1st Street was all white, and we didn't go in that area.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? But my grandfather's house was right on this corner there, and he moved it to 4th Street, which was a Black area, because in his words, and this is what he says, I didn't want those people saying ugly things to my pretty little girls.
Sure.
And that's why he moved the house, and you know, the yard is still back there, and it was a buffer. I mean, we used to play in the yard and use the yard, but the house faced this way, which is 4th, 5th, and 6th, but 4th Street and, you know, all of this area, which has always been or was traditionally all Black.
Something had that one time. People used to go and juke there.
At the Cotton Club?
Yeah, the Cotton Club.
The Dunbar was really a great spot was the spot for celebrities and stars to stay. right? Because it couldn't stay anywhere else. Unless you were really big, you know. But here, no. You were at the Dunbar Hotel, and then you would perform at the Cotton Club.
As I've been doing this video, I was fortunate enough to learn about the Cotton Club and Miss Sarah's place and everything, and to learn that right down the street from me was the Dunbar Hotel, where back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and on the Chitlin circuit, all of the black potentate dignitaries and musicians had to come and stay at the Dunbar because they weren't allowed to stay at any of the mainstream hotels.
I love talking about the Cotton Club at that time, and now the Cotton Club Museum, because the little known history in Gainesville is about what black folk did, who we were, where we were, what we established, how we established it. And I said this at one of the commission meetings because the mayor has me speak there once a month. And I said before I started to speak that I was going to highlight some African American educators because it really appalled me and I had to stop to wonder how prominent African Americans could be in Gainesville, and yet white Americans didn't even know they exist. I said, I think that's a privilege. I said, Mr. Mayor, you didn't invite me here for this, but I think it's very privileged for them to think that, white people to think they don't need to know who we are. And I say that because the lady who established the Cotton Club was an African American entrepreneur in business way before her time. Jim Crow, segregation, and she actually had a business downtown. That street at First Avenue, now that's closed off.
Yes.
Down there was Union Street. Miss Sarah had a sandwich shop down there.
Miss Sarah McKnight?
Miss Sarah McKnight.
Okay.
And over across town on what was then Seminary Lane, which is now Fifth Avenue, she had Sarah's Place. Sarah's, I think that's what it's called. But anyway, it was a trailer, like a diner sort of place that she sold food out of. And people came to play music, jam they call it, because she loved music. And African American musicians, along with University of Florida musicians, met there. So Miss Sarah wanted a place where African Americans could enjoy band music, big bands, because big bands played, we know they played in white venues. White people danced and enjoyed it, but there were no large places that black bands could play for their own people. Hence the Chitlin Circuit. The Chitlin Circuit existed in areas where there was a black hotel. And as you know, Gainesville had a black hotel, the Dunbar Hotel, not far from in your neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am.
That building still exists. I tell everybody it's the two-story pink building behind the police station. We still are trying to get a marker there. But because that building existed, Gainesville became a member of the Chitlin Circuit. We learned all of this when we started renovating that place, the Cotton Club then. But the club existed because Miss Sarah opened it up and set it so that big bands could come. So through our doors, and on the same stage that we have now, came James Brown, B.B. King, Bo Diddley, Ella Fitzgerald, and B.B. King, you know, he was the big deal. So it went for maybe a couple of years in fine shape. But soon as the commissioners or whoever was giving out the license in Gainesville learned that white kids from the university were coming over to dance and have fun at the museum, at the Cotton Club, they would not renew Miss Sarah's liquor license. And therefore the club had to close. But it opened again as the Blue Note Club, which is why our doors are blue.
Okay, I never knew that.
Yeah, that story. So when it closed as the Blue Note, then it became a warehouse, that building did.
That same bootlegging great-grandma that I talked about, in her early life was also maiden and a barmaid. But what she would do, because black people were not allowed in these restaurants, so she would go places. They would find people in different towns, and they would get together, and she would be the one to make sure that clothes were clean, ironed, you know, that they had everything they need. She run their errands. She was the ones going to the stores and the back doors, trying to get them the things that they needed. But she was a part of the group, you know what I'm saying, and traveling with these folks. And so she would tell us about all these stories. But more importantly than that, growing up, Terry, I would remember 1, 2 o'clock in the morning just being alarmed to awakeness by a blast of loud music. And I would get to the hallway. Remember, I told you my grandmother made her own alcohol. And so I would get down and I would start peeping down the hallway. And I would see people, you know, musicians, you know, big guy, you know, playing the guitar and people dancing. My great-grandmother, even though she was paralyzed, she'd get up on her walking, baby, she'd be doing her thing. So whenever the grown folk would came, you know, it was always that one kid, Carla, come out here and do a little, you know? And so, and plus they'd be good and drunk. Now, my great-grandmother had a good ringing and she drank for fun. My grandmother was an alcoholic. And so her drinking always led to her waking up all the kids. And then if you didn't wake up, she's gonna pinch you, you know, till you get up. And here we are in the living room with these grown ass men. And she wants us to dance. We in our pajamas, we tired or whatever, but I would recognize these faces and see these people. And so when I was about 16, 17, because you know, we don't have internet, I'm looking at something on TV. And I'm just casually commenting to my mom. As a matter of fact, it wasn't on TV. It was B.B. King was coming to Lowell Prison. And he was going to perform because his daughter was in prison and had been telling her jailmates, hey, this is my daddy. And of course, nobody believed him. So when he came to perform for her, they put it in the paper. And I told my mom, I said, you know who B.B. King always remind me? You remember my dear friend that she used to wake up all the house for when she used to come through playing the music and stuff? He reminds me of him. And she said, that's because it's the same person. And then she started to show me pictures of people like Muddy Waters and somebody named Howlin' Wolf and all these people. She was like, you remember him? You remember him? You remember him? And I was like, what in the world? And I didn't realize it was because they would pass through her place because one, she was familiar and they trusted her and they knew she would have everything that they wanted, but they would be going back like, or leaving places like St. Augustine, Tampa, different places, and then heading back up north. And so they would come through Gainesville. When they went further south for the Chitlin Circuit, they'd come back through Gainesville and do all of those things there. And she would tell us about all these people. And I'm looking at these pictures that my mom is giving. I'm like, so 2 o'clock in the morning in Kennedy Holmes' apartment, you trying to tell me that B.B. King was sitting in my grandma's living room and I was dancing in the middle of the floor. That's what you're trying to tell me. And she was like, yes. And then she reminded me the same daughter that he was coming to perform. And she says, you remember the little girl that we kept for a little while? And her mama's name is so-and-so? And I said, oh yeah, because we went to high school together. And she still remember us from being young. And I go, yeah. She goes, yeah, that's the daughter that he's coming to sing for in Lowell. And I was like, oh, so it really was him. She was like, yeah. So I was really fascinated. And then she started telling us, she was like, yeah, I used to date Ray Charles too.
So I'm a native of Gainesville and actually of Pleasant Street, this neighborhood right here that we're getting ready to tour. It has a rich, rich history. And so I'm going to read my poem real quick before we get on our way. And some of the places that I'll talk about in the poem, we're going to pass by. And, you know, I'll be sure to point them out. So this poem is called The Pleasant Street Elite. This is a Pleasant Street shout out, y'all, and I'm here to run it down. Let me inform you, if you don't know, the importance of growing up cross town. Back in the day when my moms was young and running with her crew, this was the black business mecca with food and music and plenty to do. Now, we all know that you were never. The other thing that resonates with me is I grew up in Pleasant Street and Fifth Avenue. And Fifth Avenue is famous for its businesses, its clubs, and its bars. From the Wabash to Woody's Sandwich Shop, or I think it was called Woody's Sandwich Shop. I know it was Mr. Woody's. That was right up the street from us, as well as the Sunset Strip and Fletcher's. And so I could always hear music coming from the club and from the bar. And so one of the things that I cherish and I miss about living in a black neighborhood that has ended now that gentrification has taken place is being able to sit on my porch and hear black music coming from the bars and the clubs.
In Duval, coming from a big city in like San Francisco, it was hard because you had just two houses you could look at, you know, outside bathrooms. It was pretty hard, but I lived with it. And finally, his grandmother bought us a home on 25th Street.
Okay.
Then we became the first, second, third couples. There was no houses up there, no apartment, anything. We're back in the woods again. And I remember my mother-in-law used to walk me down the street, and behind 8th Avenue, all the way in the back, there was like a church, well, the church, the Sheila Church was coming there. And she used to show me where black people were lynched back up in there.
Wow.
And I saw all that in the trees. They still had the rope hanging. And I remember crying and calling my mother and let my mother for California know what you go through the South.
Yes, ma'am.
I kept my kids close by me, and every morning we would sit on the porch because they wasn't ready for school, and let them see what was going on, the birds and all that different stuff. It wasn't a bad life, but it was a different life.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, that you never had seen before.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have taught them that be kind to everybody, you know, because I was used to being integrated, and it wasn't like that in the South. So I had to teach them that. But remember, you're very important, and always feel that way. So I thank God every day because I have 3 good kids.
Tell me, what do you miss about the old Porters?
The old Porters, okay. Now, Ike Place, now they used to sell gizzards and livers over there. And chicken. And it was a lady over there called Black Gal. She died. She used to work right over there with Ike and things like that. She did the cooking. And she could cook some good livers and gizzards. I used to go over there and get some and come back here to the house and things like that. And, you know, I miss that, you know.
Now, where was Ike?
Ike was right there.
Okay.
Where they got them houses built right over there. That people went there and juked in the pool hall because my husband, he ran the pool hall there. But he's dead and gone now. And they used to juke all night long. Just juke. There was another place called a club somewhere. What club? You know, where they had something they had there one time. But people used to go and juke there.
At the Cotton Club?
Yeah, the Cotton Club.
Yes, ma'am.
Boy, they used to boogie there. Boy, I know a lady, she dead and gone now. She said you should go to the Cotton Club and boogie.
Oh, okay.
But she's gone now.
So when it closed as the Blue Note, then it became a warehouse, that building did. But musicians at the time, I mentioned those that came through here, but our local bands, I tell everybody, we were so privileged and didn't know it. At our after football dances, which are on Fifth Avenue at the Wabash Hall there, that old red brick building,
Yes.
Upstairs we would go to dance after football game. The football guys would go to school and shower and get dressed and come on up there, and the rest of us would be waiting for the football team to get there. But we had a live band playing every time. It was just great. One of the biggest was called Fat Papa's Band. This guy, he was talented, and I met his son lately and didn't get any pictures from him, but he was a good singer, drummer, everything. And then Wilton Hendricks, those names came up. Wilton died not long ago, but there were quite a few. I don't remember a lot of them. There were quite a few great musicians who came through here. Miss McClellan, her husband, Phil McClellan, and his brother Marion, and those, they had a band. That band also played at the Cotton Club when it was in existence as well.
Again, I'm a 70s baby, so it was really a hippified place. It was a lot of hippies, a lot of peace and love culture, but it was still very, very segregated, especially on Sunday for church day. White people went to their church, and in my neighborhood in Pleasant Street, we had 101 churches on every corner, and the black people went to their church. So it was quite segregated, but when people got together was for music. White kids would always be over here looking for music and a fun time. And I want to, in transparency, say that you are my husband.
Yes.
And so throughout the years, we've been dating on and off since I was 14. And throughout the years, we have managed to see some very interesting concerts.
Yes.
So I know together, before we were a couple, we went to the World Series of Entertainment in Orlando, and we saw Dr. John.
That was our first date back then.
That really was one of our first dates, but we weren't really dating.
Right, we weren't really dating.
But I remember my first blues concert was with you. Do you remember who we saw?
It was Robert Craig.
Okay. I wasn't gonna.
I passed. I get to eat tonight. Hey, so.
This one here is called Bad Influence. You use me, you get you anything you want. Oh, but I'm a changed man.
The band shell, back then, that's when they were really pulling some significant people. You had, that's where I saw Kool and the Gang, and I saw, rapping was still just coming in, but still significant. So there were people going to the band shell that were free, and that you just showed up.
Okay. I'm really not certain what the first one was, but the first one that I remember was the Commodores free at the band shell, or the band shelter. I don't know what the proper name of it is, but UF used to bring in all this music free, and I remember seeing the Commodores there. And we dragged our blanket and our cooler, and I was so impressed and happy because the now commissioner, Alachua County Commissioner Charles Chestnut, didn't have his own blanket, so he came and sat with us, and we just thought we were the bee's knees because he was one of the cutest boys around. So I remember that. I remember going to see the Barkays. And then all of the reggae.